Hello, and welcome to Heaven on Earth Communications. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have a very special lineup today. A guest of mine, a longtime associate from the dance community, is going to be joining us to speak about a lot of different hot topics in our society. Hopefully, we'll come to some conclusions, find ourselves a better path, and elevate the entire crowd as we elevate our own consciousness. Thank you again for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please donate, subscribe, and like if you wish for these to continue. I promise they will become higher quality in the future. Thank you very much.
Which one's safe. And so you have your own inferences based on what the world has fed you, right? And then when you experience it for yourself, under your own influence, without any friends, without anybody else telling you how to experience the thing, you sit with yourself and you sit with the drug. And then you say to yourself, oh, there doesn't have to be any abuse involved in this. This is just a narrative.
Exactly. And where my thought was going, oh man, it's so dark. It's actually so dark because I guarantee you that someone's gonna pull it up and be like, "Well, don't you think you're being a little paranoid?" You know how they always do, just that kind of shit.
The naysayers.
Perhaps they didn't have 100% intent in what they did to us, the people above us, but I'm sure some of them did.
Yeah.
So the ways these things work, the drugs and how they say these words. Honestly, I have never had as bad of an experience on drugs,
That they exclaimed it to be.
as in like someone had to predetermine it. As in like I've only had a bad experience on drugs when someone said bad things are going to happen to you.
Right.
So they gave me a line,
Right.
and I followed that line of code, like I believed them. I was like, oh yeah, and then you find out what the word believe means, and you're like, oh shit, living inside of.
A lie.
Basically just trying to make these things exist with your head. And so what I'm reporting is a lot of things they say.
Yeah, you're predisposing yourself to paranoia by letting those things lead the thought. You know, frontal cortex, which is very much in control whenever you're sober. And so when you get into a state where the frontal cortex is no longer in control, then what you have is what you had preloaded.
Yeah.
You know. So
Yeah. Exactly. No. Exactly. So exactly. And and this is exactly how they get in your head. All of education is preloaded material. All of it. So this is where we are currently in our society. Words like escape were, in my opinion, made up to. Test. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, thank you. All right. Yeah. So the word itself, escape, to me, really brought it all home. Because, at least for this moment, when I was just thinking about it, who says I'm escaping? That was something that someone put up about drugs before I even got there. Before I even got to drugs, people use drugs to escape.
to escape reality.
And then it's almost like I came up with my own reason to actually need to escape just to try it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, I think that we're actually talking ourselves into a madness.
Yeah, it's very yes, we very much are, and I feel like that lends to their agenda because, you know, whenever you tell a kid that you know a tree is gonna grow in your stomach if you swallow a watermelon seed, they have no other reference to go by.
Right.
You get it? And the same thing can be for a drug for an adult, you know? You have no other clear reference as to how the experience is going to be. And then when you get to the experience itself, you see immediately that there's no words for it, number one. And number two, how dare they tell you what the experience is that you're supposed to have when, you know, as an individual, your experience is always going to be different from the next person, first off. And then the experience itself is almost guaranteed to be like beautiful if you're not having those negative thoughts in the forefront. And you could be in a really shitty place and still have an extremely beautiful experience.
Yeah.
With, you know?
True. No, I've actually been in really crappy places and had a beautiful experience still because my mind wasn't being jostled there. I had high hopes. I felt like, hey, what if I just today believe that I'm going to be rich and famous soon, even? What if that could be true? We have so much control over our minds, and that's what is worrying me about the people above us. Do they know what they're doing? Because I've tried a little programming myself, just because you kind of give in to the beast once it screws you too many times. You're like, oh, I guess this is the way the world works. I guess we gotta just do this to each other, and it almost feels like it's like hereditary. It's so hard to mimic. It's so hard to get done. It's almost like it's being passed down from this one location, and then some people below it are worse at it. You know what I'm saying, than this person.
Yeah.
And someone has made a commitment somewhere to be some type of way that is paying off for them, not so much the rest of us.
Let me expand on that you know, that front of it feeling like it's hereditary.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a race going and there are people already running, and you jump in the middle of the race, not at the starting line, right? You jumped in the middle of the race, and people are running all kinds of ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people running really fast. Some people are at a slow jogging pace. Some people on bicycles. Some people on skateboards. You're jumping into a fray. It's chaos. If you didn't start at the beginning, you have no idea why there's different people running different ways. And that's what it's like whenever it feels like it's hereditary, is because you don't have any inference of the past. And so if you're, born in the mid 90s, if you're born in the early 80s, mid 80s, the 70s, the 60s, you're gonna have a different point of the race that you're viewing viewing it from.
Yeah.
And so if you were lucky enough to have seen the race from the 50s to the 60s, then you could say for yourself, oh, this was the actual starting point, and what it's turned into now is just basically a tumor of what it originally was supposed to be.
Yep.
And when it comes to like the war on drugs, you can see why the paranoia is here today, because we were never really given the clear context of why it started in the first place, and the fear behind the government's stance, because there was a lack of oversight back then,
Oh yeah.
And once they had some sort of oversight, they went to the extreme end of oversight and made it, class 1, schedule 1 drugs, for all of these things that could potentially help people with depression.
Yeah.
And phobia and fear. It was something that I know from personal experience. I can give you that to a very detail-oriented point of view as how a highly illegal narcotic can help a person with a deeply rooted phobia. And phobia is different from fear.
Yep.
And I didn't try any of these hard chemicals or drugs or plants or substances until my mid-30s. And here I am just a few years later, in my late 30s, and I'm saying to myself, wow, we're sitting on a gold mine as far as what you can do to improve, or I don't know, at least add to the human condition. We've created a world where the human condition is suffering, and we could definitely fix it.
Yeah, we could.
We could, I'm not a nihilist at all.
I want to expand on that, because that's just preaching to the choir, because I've been 100% about that. I find a lot more nihilists than I do creationists, but I do also find them in places where you might expect them, like streets, on the bus, you know what I mean? Like people who are so more downtrodden. People you find at the top of society are usually pretty, happy or whatever. But I feel like that's an obvious reason why. I want to touch on the fact, or the supposition at least, that I've noticed in my own experience, that I don't think karma is real in almost any sense other than the physical human desire, and that's like a revenge thing more than it is actual karma, because it's coming from another human, not from a divine system. And as much as I would love to believe in something that is like that, here's my first question. If karma exists, why does anything bad happen?
Listening to the first point of something bad happening, the ripple effect. That's a good point from that point of view.
Karma must be a bad steward of its zone, so to speak. Like, it's like someone who was given a job of keeping these two things balanced, and then just kind of go and fuck off and do whatever they want, and then, oh shit, they fell over again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Karma doesn't really make that much sense.
It doesn't, and especially when you think about, because a lot of people base karma on how much money you have. Well, let's turn that into something. So you're telling me that if I made the first printer, and I was the Fed, that I would be the good guy.
You know what's funny is that where do we get the word karma from? Which religion was it from?
I think it's Hinduism or
is it Hindu?
in Indian religion, so to speak, the real Indian, not the.
Is it Hinduism or is it Buddhism that has karma? We'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
You know, karma. We'll look up karma
It's
because
definitely Asian influence.
yeah, and I don't know if it's in the ancient Sanskrit text. You know, the karmic cycle and the wheel of samsara.
Let's look that up.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they were going with that particular concept.
Got a video here called The Ancient Science of Karma. Let's do this commercial real quick, but let's see what this elucidates to us. I will say one very important thing, language has me astounded. Language is very amusing. It keeps my head spinning in some of the most beautiful ways.
Yeah, language.
Joseph Stalin, the 20th century
Sorry, go ahead.
I recognize, under one meditation that language is merely a vessel for information and for energy and for conveying thoughts. And being a vessel like this cup, it has its capacity. And then there's a point where the language, the thought, the feeling, the emotion, whatever it is that you're trying to convey, cannot fit inside of the vessel. You see what I'm saying? So when I say to yourself,
It
I
wants
was
to come
high
out.
as balls, you understand that I was high, but you don't understand the experience because the vessel as balls wasn't enough to contain the experience.
Oh yeah.
When I say that I was livid, you know that I was some level of angry, but you haven't exactly felt it, like gutturally.
Yeah.
You just understand, innately until
There's no
one day that
visceral.
you feel it yourself. And you're like, oh, he meant livid.
Yeah, exactly. I find there was just the point that just came in my head. Oh yes, quantification. This is a game people don't like playing with me. Usually everyone I've ever played quantification with stomps their feet and marches off. Because they want to assume and believe that I'm the one being unfair to them, but they won't put in near as much footwork as I do to figure out what the real quantification of our things are. And when you bring in these things like, well, let's say it like this: if I'm helping a girl and she wants to be a mirror, this is why being a mirror, this is why being karma, all this shit is just so toxic, it's so bad, it needs to go away, especially the human grip of it. Because if we're trying, the human mind trying to understand karma and trying to comprehend karma, could be undoing it all. If it does exist, maybe us trying to get it is just unraveling it.
Yeah.
And so what happens is I'll get into it deep with someone, and they won't want to face the truth. Like, let's say a girl will be like, oh, but I also showed up for the same amount of time and also did work, but for some reason, why did you move less than I did? Why did you go through less than I did, but we're both at the same pay rate? Doesn't make sense. So when we really quantify these things, people get butthurt. You know what I mean? They're like, well, I'm small and I'm this and that's. Well, that's why we made different jobs for y'all.
Karma doesn't work with quantification and monetary things. It doesn't.
Not well, not from the human side. If there is karma, let's say supposition, if there is karma, once again, the human brain probably doesn't get it. It probably is too slow to get it, and it would be something we would have to disallow from our attention, because it would be a, what do you call it? Have you ever noticed, because you're a dancer, the biggest mind killer of your confidence and going out there and getting it done is fear, but more so self-consciousness. You start by being like, oh, I did that, and without the whole you remembering what you did, you wouldn't even have a chance to think negatively or positively about yourself. So in those moments when you're flow state, you have no judgment. You cannot keep a judgment of yourself. It's nice and fun to afterwards be like, damn, that was cool. I was cool when I did that. That was pretty nice. Damn, you know what I'm saying?
That's great. But
Have a beer about it, whatever. In the moment, if you think any of those thoughts, it's going to stop you from doing your top. So it's very interesting that I think some of these concepts seem to be swirling around a central mass of how we experience reality and how, if any, karma or God could exist for our betterment. Because especially I like the way you speak about words being carriers of thought, and rather than how a lot of people in our society, like, oh man, there's people who think like you, and then there's people who think of the opposite end of the spectrum, where all of your words manifest everything into your reality, and everything you say so you're telling me that if I go say stupid duty sneaky rolls like enough times or something like that, something would happen with those words to me.
You step outside and just do your duties.
Yeah, someone's just shitting on my phone. Now, I think we all know that if we went back to childhood, the kind of what was coming out of our mouths, we'd be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it would.
And it's not like we need to learn to stop that. Well, we've been given the ability to have this freedom of non-judgment, and that's why it maybe expands from the body to the whole. And I've never, when people say don't judge, I hate that, because it's like, well, you kind of like have to, like, stepping over an object takes judgment. So it's not like judgment is the word. There's got to be a better word than just judgment, because
I hate to give it this name, but I think the karma that we're talking about in context to how we see it today, how people experience it, how they talk about it today, it's micro karma versus the overall karma that you see in religion. The overall karma in religion is a very long process, and it's like a lifetime. And then like you have us today, we're like, oh, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and we're like, oh, a butterfly fell on my nose, and that means that something good's gonna happen tomorrow. Yeah, and me recognizes that is manifesting in the universe. Well, not exactly, because it's gonna rain tomorrow, and that butterfly's gonna die, and the trash is gonna be like ripped open by a raccoon, and
you're gonna come out and say, God damn it.
And then when something finally happens that's good, you're like, oh,
that was it. Yeah,
that was it.
Thank you. And this is oh, thank you. We're like right on top of like the entire sickness, like 100%. Ever since I was a kid, I've been bro. I don't know how many years I've wasted in my own life just thinking about what good things would I have earned from that, and how did I do this, and versus what I'm getting now, and why is it this and why is it that, and just that's what us trying to comprehend it might be the problem. Maybe that's why we say it doesn't exist. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But one thing's for sure, it's almost like it not existing would be the kind of same equivalent of a very, very, very nice God. You know what I'm saying? It gives us a chance to say, well, you fucked up and there's a mess here, but no one has to get punished for it. We could just clean it up.
It's funny you mention that, because we struggle with that concept of how God is going to play a role in our current society. And we're always looking for something to play that role of God whenever shit goes bad, not necessarily when things go good. Now that we have a society where a lot of things can go bad, even though it's supposed to be great. I mean, we hardly have any diseases that can hurt us. We have a lot more diseases today, strangely enough, but we live in a very fantastic world, right? And yet, we don't feel like it. We're the first, we're probably one of the first generations to not look to the future and think optimistically. Not think about bringing another human being into this world.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, I struggle with that one. I'll be honest. The biggest thing I have against it is what she puts me on papers.
Yeah.
And a lot of girls out here, here's the bigger issue. Oh man, the rich old men. They love to snipe these young ladies out from under our feet, and they like to ruin their entire lives by feeding their heads full of information, which is extremely purposely crafted to be dicey and so close to the line, maybe even so never ever allowing for you to reach that line. Like never even giving you enough space to get the credit you deserve. And they'll shove this down this, these young things' throat they're just paying them a lot of money to come out and see them once every now and then, you know what I'm saying? And, the guy at home is trying to be cool with that and whatnot, but, over time, this person starts changing. And now they're talking about this, talking about that, about how, it used to be you're awesome and you're amazing and I'll do anything for you. And then now it's like, what are you going to do for me while you're sitting there, like, patching them up? And it's just like, hey, maybe you should stop talking. Maybe you should just accept what you have and love that. You know what else? Maybe you should love the fact that someone's, paying you for your time to, come out and do something. Maybe you should stop listening to them, because you should be able to see through a scope of this guy's an old guy who's trying to get me away from my boyfriend.
Yeah. We see that a lot in today's culture because it's allowed.
Yeah. I honestly starting to think that maybe older people shouldn't be allowed to contact younger people. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
See
I
how they
mean,
did us?
I don't really agree with that because I feel like that would create another problem that we haven't seen yet.
Well,
I don't know what it is.
Well,
I don't know what it is.
No, you're 100% right on my on my poor description of it, in my generalized format that I left it in. But let's say it like this: significantly older, outside of their realm as a teacher or any other kind of confident.
Yeah,
You know,
the sexual marketplace.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like anyone outside of something that they've signed up for to get that knowledge from someone who is being monitored by a system of people who are making sure they're not making passes and creating a emotionally attractive environment to bring them in, like, hey, you know, sleep with me to get a better grade type shit, and oh wait, well I guess your essay wasn't as good as you thought it was, you know what I'm saying, because I'm attracted to you and I kind of want you around, so maybe if I just give you 10 points less and you'll feel obligated to do something to make that go 10 points up. There's just, we need to keep all of this under watch and make sure that everyone outside of that really should just not be allowed, and it shouldn't be okay for them to contact, because in my personal experience, oh man, it's at least 3 now, girls that I've dated who changed mid-relationship because they were talking to some older dude on the side who was, you know, trying to get them to like come over, trying to, you know, pay them money for this, that, and the other, and you know, I'm not so insecure to where I can't allow someone to go out and just whatever, you know, make choices.
Yeah.
It's just that when you come back and you're a different person, you have swallowed the soul of another person, and you're bringing them home to me. And you know, if you didn't swallow anything else, that'd be fucking, you know, surprising. But talking from the position we're in, let's imagine you didn't, but you're still bringing this person home inside of your body.
You had a terrible experience, or 3 or 100 experience with women. I've never had any experiences that, well, okay, I've had one that was pretty bad, but it wasn't unmanageable. You know, it wasn't detrimental to my health or in any way or shape. You know, and so I've been extremely lucky in relationships. I've only had long-term relationships, right? And I can tell you right now that one bad one, it sounds a lot like what happened to you.
Yeah.
But
You'll find them.
Yeah, and I told that person how I'm gonna react to it, how I deal with these situations, and she listened. And when I did exactly what I said I would do, it was a shock to her because following through with what you promise is not common anymore.
Right.
And so they're used to low integrity.
This is exactly why it's hard for me to even start a relationship with someone, because like I'll meet someone, they'll look at me like, oh, you're cute, and I'm like, yeah, you're cute too, and then I'll start moving in, and they'll immediately go, oh, he wants me, he must be a player, he must be he must have nothing, because first of all, they might be considering themselves like, oh, I'm not much, they might be insecure of themselves, and then immediately judge you like, oh, well, he wants me, then he must be a loser. That's weird. I've actually met a lot of women who will judge you for loving them, as in like,
yes.
oh,
that is very common.
that's a bad choice. You must have zero judgment.
That's the common thing now, and the reason why that's the common thing is with the amount of choice that's available. We could go over the history and the nuances of the times that we're in as far as like psychology with women, and you're gonna see very clearly that there was just a line in the sand where things had to have changed after that, and we're currently right now in an adjustment period.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that what happened to you didn't happen to me because I was never on dating apps, and I had really long relationships with people who wanted to have long relationships.
Right.
And I was always surrounded by, you know, friends and women or whatever, and that didn't really interrupt my relationships, you know, because I was decline that.
Yeah, I haven't been on dating apps much either, but I did meet a lot of the girls I was with dancing out of a club or something like that. And I'm not gonna sit here and say that they're bad people or anything like that. I think they were easily influenced, and I think they made a few bad decisions here and there. But then the worst decision they made was denying all the logic that I was, you know, because I help people see. I take all the stuff you're going through and help you put it together. And I'm not one of those people that force together like, no, this is who you are. I recognize people tell lies. I recognize people embellish. I recognize people, you know, like want to be something that they may not be, and they're trying to get there and stuff like that. So I leave space. One of the ways I keep getting really hurt in relationships, and again, I've had plenty of relationships end fine, and like okay, bye, this and the other. I've had a few horrible ones, and I have the problem. This is another thing that leads into it. Family upbringing. Like how you were raised, what your love language is. Do you have abandonment issues? Do you have mommy issues? Do you have daddy issues? Did one of them love you more or less than the other? And so this translates outward. And I know for a fact that I was given a bleeding heart.
You recognize that?
Oh yeah, I'm having to be hard. It's actually hard for me to be hard because I can find it. I can dig deep and find the love. I can dig deep and find the nice tones, the calming mannerisms, and all that other stuff. I can get it out there. I'm just starting to actually have to dig to be. I want to say. I guess mean is a good word because because a lot of people use mean to be like rough, abrasive,
stone face,
unpleasurable, not fun to be around, stuff like that. But it can take on pardon me, I actually lost the word. What was the word?
I mean, whenever you say you have to be mean,
mean. That was what it was. Mean, yes. Okay, so mean was mean medium mode, like the actual meaning of what I'm saying. So when I mean something, you know what I mean? That's something. And that's again. This is you can see all the different fractures of how this gets pulled away from us in a perfect world, which is why we were instructed, and that's why I can't turn away from what I've been taught. I just have to learn how to quit sooner.
I feel guilty right now because I kind of helped create the disaster that we're in as far as sociology, human behavioralism, how we interact with each other. I was part of the problem in creating it, and this is what I mean by that. I work for several IT companies, and they call them FANG companies now, but I work for very large ones. And we developed social media to what it is today. And when we did it, it wasn't nefarious in its inception or in what we were planning to do. It was to create a new way of communicating and a more composite way of communicating, around the world. And it has done that, but there are several offshoots of social media that have festered and have gone unchecked and have gone commercialized. And one of those things happened after the iPhone. 2007, you're talking about an era, and I want to walk you back specifically to 2007, because dating apps have already existed as far as online, and at that particular point in history, right. Match One, eHarmony, Farmers Dating.
You know what they mean by that.
Yeah, and the thing is, those websites where you do online dating, Christian singles, whatever, they were taboo. It's like if you told your family member that you were on a online dating thing, it was kind of taboo. Now it is the absolute norm. It is the absolute norm. And so you have between 2007 and now 2023, where the extreme of the day, yesterday's norm, or yesterday's crazy is today's norm. And so you have a gradient that has changed, a nuance that has completely changed. And that was spurred on by the iPhone, which changed, the way that we interacted with phones and apps. Plenty of Fish was starting to die off at that point. It was online. Then it got a revitalization because of
bots,
Bumble and Tinder, and all those things were now available on a new big screen. And then they had the feature of swiping, and that added to the mix. And then Facebook became public, and then YouTube became like a video platform that everybody used at that point. So you had a whole lot of media that people had access to at a specific between 2007 and 2009. And what that does is you have a generation that has already been accustomed to being, human. And then you have a brand new generation of adults at 2007, they leave high school, and everybody's using an app. 2007, every single year you have a new generation or population of people that are forced into the app world and not into the human world. Right? And so now we have 2 to 3 generations that are forced into the app world, and nobody has acclimated properly. Not the new generation that only had that, not the last generation. And the reason why is because the apps are built towards a certain level of popularity. It's built into it. But human psychology skews it to another level because
Yeah.
what you have now is hypergamy. Hypergamy is when the chicks go on the app and men chase women. And then you have an app that women have to contact the men first, right? Which is the most popular one, Bumble. And then you have those women dating the top guys, right? So those top guys are dating most of the women, and then the guys that are even just the 21 percentile and lower, they're not really getting as much attention. And the other feature is that you're paying to interact with women. You're paying monthly to interact with women.
Right.
And you're not getting the amount of attention. If you are not a person with a super strong self-esteem, with a lot of experience with women before the apps, maybe you left high school when you were like 20 and then you dated two women, because that's just fucking normal.
Right.
It's really fucking normal. And you married the second one, or you married the first one and dated the second one. That's very fucking normal for most of humanity. And then you have the app world, and you're like, wait a second, my friend over here is getting dates left and right, and I'm not getting any dates. What's the difference between him and me? You see what I'm saying? And you can't really see what that difference is. The app is creating a whole different psychology.
Yep.
And the women that are on there, they're getting 5,000 men that are trying to get their attention. And in real life, you walk past that same woman that you saw on the app, you would not ever speak to her. You get it?
Yep.
So their ego is boosted by the app.
Exactly.
And then the guys.
Oh, let's not even forget how many
ego is
there are
dejected.
bots. I mean, like, yes, you do have a lot of real men going after you. And I'm not saying, like, they don't. I'm not trying to make a savage statement here, but being honest, there's bots everywhere.
Oh, there's plenty of that.
Oh, yeah.
There's plenty of that.
And here, being honest, I'm trying to remember more than one time, but I'm actually only able to recall one time that I used a dating app and got a hookup. One time.
Yeah, I've only used one once and got a date. And I used it once in 2016, and that was for a week and a half. And in that whole week and a half, I got, I think, 7 matches, and none of them were real except for one. And I never got a date because that person was super insulting, and I just deleted the app immediately, and I just started riding my bicycle and met people that way.
Exactly. You get up. See, I'm definitely the same with you. I present a lot better in person because I look good, my energy's good, my vibes are good, my personality's great. I'm not here asking you for money for things. You know what I mean? So I know I got it going on. But whenever I get on a dating app, it's, oh, you're so beautiful, you're so cute. So they say, let's hang out. Oh, I really want to hang out with you. Okay, awesome. I'm coming over. Hey, can I get like $25 for gas? And then also like, so, can you cook for me? And like, and I'm like, oh, that was totally in the stars, girl. But like, right off the bat, you're asking for money, like.
Yeah, those are called girls type date, those what are those webcam girls?
Cam girls, yeah, just basically like OnlyFans, stuff like that. But probably worse.
Yeah, I don't know where that I've seen it once or twice.
I just know that when women have a privilege that they refuse to acknowledge, or I don't like the word refuse, by the way. We'll talk more about that. They reject acknowledging their privilege, which is women can usually just throw their hands up and someone will come by and grab them and save them. A man does that, people make fun of them as they pass him. Two huge differences.